Richard Schaefer with Probellum Promotions now. Big fight March 19th, I believe.
Actually, 2 days, March 18 and March 19. March 18 we have Estelle Mosley defending her IBO world title. First female world title fight from the Middle East. The first time a female fighter is a main event in the Middle East, so this is going to be truly a historic event on March the 18th. And then on March 19th we have another stacked card, including a world title fight with Sonny Edwards, the IBF flyweight world champion, defending his title. And then of course the long anticipated return of Regis Prograis, one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world, one of the most charismatic fighters as well. So I think everybody is really excited to see Regis back in the ring.
You've come back in a big way, Richard, with Probellum. You guys are literally signing fighters every week. I get a notification that you guys should sign this guy, Sonny Edwards. I think one of your most recent guys. Just tell us about your idea with Probellum. You guys are putting shows globally, not just statewide. You know?
Well, the idea is to really send you guys a press release every day. But no, all kidding aside, we are very active. We are building our stable of fighters. We do believe that it's important to really embrace the global nature of the sport of boxing. We have executed co-promotion agreements, strategic relationships with some of the biggest promoters in the world. Right now, I think it's 25 different countries where we co-promote, where we will expose the Probellum brand as well. So when you take those events plus the events we do on our own, you're going to see this year the Probellum brand involved in over 250 events. And I'm not kidding, you hear that right, 250 events from all around the world.
That's got to be very hard to do, especially during the pandemic. It seems like you're not overwhelmed by the shows you're putting up together. She talks about some of the hurdles you got to overcome to make sure. It seems like you guys are one of the most fluid promoters at the moment.
Yes, I mean we have a great team. You know, it starts with the team we have. We have a great group of executives. We're really building this business block by block from the ground up, and that is very exciting. And so I'm really thrilled to be involved, thrilled to be working with the people like Harrison Whitman, Eric Winter, Anthony Pettozo, Anthony Contanzaro, and Aaron Bickerstaff, and so many others. Just an absolutely fantastic team, and we have one goal: to really give exposure to the fighters we sign, make them global superstars, and elevate the sport of boxing. What is very important for us as well is that we have an open door policy. We want to truly work with every promoter around the world. We don't want to we don't work with this one, we don't work with that one. We work with everybody, and I think these are not just empty words, because you can see what we do. I mean, the fact that we did sign 25 co-promotion agreements, partnership agreements with some of the leading promoters around the world. Like, for example, the biggest promoter in Canada, Yvon Michel, the biggest promoter in Puerto Rico, Peter Rivera. I mean, and the list goes on and on. So we are empowering these promoters. We want to help them elevate their own markets. We are investing in those markets, and we want to really build these fighters irrespective from where they come from. And that's refreshing. It's a different approach. I can't really take credit for that. Our chairman, Ali Shamspour, is one of the brightest people I've ever met. He had a vision, and it's up to Harrison and me and the team to implement that vision and make it our mission to really elevate the sport.
As you mentioned, you guys are putting together a great stable of fighters, but how does that circle back to the big three in the United States, like Top Rank, Golden Boy, Premier Boxing Champions? Do you plan on working with them in terms of like the 140 division for Regis? They got a fight coming up in March as well with Jose Pedraza and Jose Ramirez. Yes. That's in Regis Prograis division.
Yes.
How do you plan on coming back here and stating the big fights or whatnot?
Well, you know, I can only speak for ourselves. We are happy and open to work with Top Rank. with Golden Boy, with we're working with Al Heyman already. I have one of our Probellum fighters, Monty Stanionis, is going to be fighting for the regular world title against Butayev on the Spence card, and then you have we have Nonito Donaire, who I'm working on a deal to defend his WBC world title, and so I'm working with Al. He has no problem working with us. I have no problems working with him, and I hope the same is true for Top Rank. We love to work with Eddie Hearn as well, and Frank Warren, and so on. So we really mean that. So it's going to be up to them. And I think too often in boxing you see that fights doesn't happen because of the divide, and the promoters sort of like thinking with their little garden, their own little backyard, and not really thinking outside of their own sandbox, and look at the sport of boxing not as their own sandbox, but really look at it as a global playground to give fight fans the fights they want to see. And you mentioned the 140-pound weight class. That's some of the. I mean, I was part of the World Boxing Super Series. The 140-pound weight class was part of the World Boxing Super Series, where we saw the final between Regis Prograis and Taylor. So I would love to see the rematch of that fight. There's so many great fights in the 140-pound weight class. I love to see Regis and Jose Ramirez, for example. I love to see if Gervonta Davis moves up, Gervonta Davis and Regis Prograis fight. There's so many potential great fights where you just know stylistically as well. These are the kind of fights which has the fight fans on the edge of their seat. Yeah. And that's the kind of fights we want to do at Probellum. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned before Nonito Donaire. Nonito is the kind of guy who fights everybody. So what does Nonito want is exactly what I would like as well, and what the fight fans want. What fight do fight fans want to see? One of the 5 most anticipated fight is probably the rematch of the 2019 Fight of the Year between the monster Inoue and Donaire, right? Yeah. So what do I want to do? I want to get that fight done, Sure. And
update on that?
Yeah, so I've been in conversations with Mr. Honda, and we're looking at a target date sometime towards the end of May, maybe beginning of June. So we're working on that, and that's the kind of fights I want to deliver, and that's the kind of fights I want to deliver for Regis or for all of the fighters under our umbrella. I mean, I mentioned before Estelle Mosley, the 2016 Olympic gold medalist in the lightweight division. She won the gold medal by beating Katie Taylor. She actually beat Katie Taylor in the World Championships, then went on to win Olympic gold as well. So we know that there's going to be a big female fight between Katie Taylor and Serrano. So I would love to see Estelle eventually fight for that as well. Big events, historic events. That's what I've always done. I like to put together big events and big fights, and those who know me, they know that's exactly what I've done throughout my career as a promoter.
And with Stanionis about to have his big fight, you got to keep an eye on the Ugas and Spence fight. How do you see that stylistically these matches playing out, and who do you think will be the last man standing when the dust settles?
Well, it's a very loaded division, the welterweight division, and you obviously have Terence Crawford there, who is widely recognized as one of the top 2, together with Canelo, pound for pound best fighters in the world. You have Errol Spence, who is equally gifted, and again, I think the fight everybody would want to see is Spence versus Crawford. That's the fight people want to see. So what are we going to need to do when I say we, I mean us as a sport. Whether if it's you guys as the media or us as promoters or managers or fighters, we all need to push that we get these fights done, because that's the only way we can bring back the kind of excitement level we had, particularly here in the United States 5, 6, 10 years ago, when we had all these great fights happening. That's what we need to do again. And so we need to make sure in the welterweight division that we finally get the fight everybody wants to see. But there are other great fights, like so Eimantas Stanionis, the winner of Eimantas Stanionis and Butaev is going to be in line to fight the winner of Spence and Ugas. The WBA was very clear about that. There's no if, no but, no this, no that. That's why Eimantas stepped aside as well, to allow that unification bout.
That might be a second time, right, that he stepped aside, wasn't it?
That was the first time. He became the mandatory to Ugas, and then he stepped aside to allow Ugas and Spence to unify. And now the winner of Spence and Ugas has to fight Stanionis or Butaev, whoever wins that fight. But there's Keith Thurman as well, who recently had a comeback. I've known Keith since he started, promoted most of his fights. So I do believe that let's say Keith Thurman, and I saw he mentioned Crawford. That he would like to fight Crawford. I think that would be a hell of a fight. Again, stylistically, that's the kind of fight you want to see. Crawford and Thurman, hell of a fight.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunities. And then don't forget, some of those 140-pounders, whether if it's Regis Prograis or Josh Taylor, they're going to be moving up as well.
It's going to be a stacked division for sure. Just your final assessment on Ugas and Spence. Spence is coming back from the retina tear, the injury. It's a serious injury. How do you see things playing out for him in his comeback fight with Ugas?
Well, Spence went through a lot, if you think about it, over the last few years with the accident and then the eye injury, and it's just like, having landed the Manny Pacquiao fight and then not being able to fight him because of the torn retina and all that. So he went through a lot of things, and he's a good guy. He's a great fighter, great champion. So I hope it goes well for him. And if you never know what those injuries take out of a fighter, so you really only know once you watch the fight, and that's why you've got to watch the fight. So I do think it's a very interesting matchup. You see, like, Ugas has been waiting. Ugas' backstory and what he's gone through, and with leaving Cuba and leaving his family and finally becoming world champion, beating the great Manny Pacquiao, which a lot of people gave him no chance. But that guy is hungry, even though he's a bit older, but he's hungry and he wants to prove himself, and he doesn't want to let this chance go. And so that's why I think that fight with him and Spence will be a hell of a fight. And Spence is we don't know where Spence is. And general wisdom would dictate that Spence is going to win that fight, right?
Yes.
But we don't know. Yeah. It's boxing.